Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's talk from Magdalena, Stefanova, and Tanya Dineva called Lean Product Management. Just a reminder that this session is being recorded, and if you have any questions as we go through, please do post them into the Q&A chat. You can also vote for the questions you particularly like to be answered. There is a contest for the best question, and we do recommend that you put your name against the question so that we know who asked it. And a quick introduction of our speakers. Magdalena Stefanova is a lead business analyst in EPAM with 8 years of experience in product management. And Tanya Dineva is a senior business analyst in EPAM with vast experience in pre-sales and process optimization. So without further ado, ladies, over to you.
Thank you, Olga. Thanks a lot. Colleagues, welcome to the BA and Product Management Days. So without further ado, let's dive right into our topic for lean product management. So I guess most of you are welcome to this session once again. And I guess most of you already know what lean product management is about, but we are going to use the chance and use this session to give you a more precise overview. Actually, we need to call it lean product management in a nutshell because we only have 1 hour. Today, we are going to explain what lean product management is and how to apply it. So let's dive right in.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tanya Dineva. I've been working for EPAM for more than a year. Before that, I was part of a product management team and pre-sales team of one of the biggest product companies that provides BSS solution in the telecom industry. My focus was the product development process and how to measure and optimize the product via analytics framework. And these are just some of the topics that we are gonna talk today, and I'm here to share my experience with you.
Thanks, Tanya. Hi, folks. I'm Magdalena. I've been with EPAM for almost 3 years already. Before that, I worked as product manager for big software companies such as SAP, and scale-ups out of Silicon Valley. I actively applied the lean product principles while building my own venture as well. So we are going to do some dog fooding today as well.
So let's start. What is our agenda for today? In the next hour, together with Maggie, we're going to answer to the 2 main essential questions of what is product management. And those 2 questions are how to reach product market fit and how to optimize our product. So let's start.
Let's dive.
Maggie, why the topic of lean product management is relevant today? Isn't this some hypo that is applicable only for startups?
Well, 40 to 90% of new products fail to gain significant market adoption. And actually, Microsoft estimates that only around 1/3 of their ideas improve the metrics they are intended to improve. Same story for Amazon, same story for Netflix, etc. And actually, those big behemoths, S&P 500 companies, they are faced with the following reality. The average life expectancy of their new products is 15 years. So even if they get the new product right, they can only rely on it for 15 years. The truth is that it doesn't matter how much companies research, how well they plan, how much money they spend, or how smart their employees are. The odds that they will avoid big mistakes are against them. And lean product management is a framework to improve our odds.
Just wondering, what do you think is the reason for such a high failure rate?
Well, the reason is common, and no matter if you are a startup, a scale-up, or a company, the main reason products fail is because they do not meet customer needs in a way that is better than other alternatives. And this is the essence of product market fit.
Well, what is the origin of the phrase product market fit?
I guess some of you already know that, but Mark Anderson coined the term back in 2007 in a blog post. He says startups fail because they never get to product market fit. In our case, let's treat startups as a synonym for creating new products with all the market risk associated. Now, product market fit means being in a good market with a product that can satisfy that market. And actually, the lean startup movement, which was begun by Eric Ries, also helped us popularize the idea of product market fit further.
I like that book, but if I have read Lean Startup book, am I good to go?
Well, not exactly. So the Lean Startup equips you with the high-level concepts. However, you need to know how to apply these concepts in product management on a daily basis, on a tactical level. And you need a guide, and that's what we will explain today. A lot of overlap between product management and Lean Startup exists. Lean Startup has created a vocabulary, MVP, product market fit, pivot. People struggle with applying both, especially applying best practices in product management.
So let's explain what is Lean product management exactly.
All right, so it consists of two things, a framework and a step-by-step process. So the latter helps you arrive at each component of the framework.
So let's start with the framework and explain it. Why is it called product market fit pyramid?
Because essentially the goal of the Lean product management is to arrive at product market fit and then sustain it. The framework consists of 3 sections and 5 key components in a specific order. Each component is actually a testable hypothesis. Now, the market is the bottom section, and it consists of 2 components, as you can see, right? The product is at the top section, consisting of 3 components, and there's hierarchy within the sections. Each layer depends on the layer immediately below it. Let's start with the market. Target customer. Who are we trying to create value for? Whose life we want to make better? A market consists of all the existing and potential customers that share a particular customer need. For example, all the businesses in the US which prepare their annual objectives and key results. The needs are above it, since it's the needs of that particular target market we want to identify. If you change your target customer, you need to change all the components above. So the needs. For that customer, what are their underserved needs? Next, which ones are acute, particularly painful?
So specific is important word here.
Yes, you want to identify the specific needs that correspond to a good market opportunity.
Right. So how about the product section from the framework?
Well, look into the top 3 components, the product section. A product is a specific offering intended to meet a customer need. For software, the product itself is intangible code, often running on some distant server somewhere. And the real-world manifestation of software products that customers actually see, feel, use is the user experience, which is the top layer of our pyramid. Below it is the critical feature set. Now that's the functionality that the product provides, and it consists of multiple features, each built to meet a specific customer need. Taken together, they form the product feature set, and that's the component just below the UX one. Now, let's move to the vision product strategy. To decide which features to build, you need to have a vision formed by the specific customer needs you've identified and decided that your product must address. In doing so, you want to determine how your product will be better than the others on the market. This is the essence, actually, as well, of product strategy. Now, the set of needs that you aspire to meet with your product form your value proposition, and this is the layer just below feature set. Your value proposition is also the layer above customer needs, and fundamentally, it determines how well the needs included in your product match up with the customers. Remember, each layer informs the one above it. So product market fit is the measure of how well your product, the top section, resonates with the market, the bottom section. You cannot control the market, it's outside your control, but you can control the product. It's within your power.
Thanks for the great explanation. Can you give us an example?
I guess too much theory so far.
Yeah.
So let's assess GTM Hub. That's the software product widely used for OKR management. In fact, we also use it in EPAM. So let's assess GTM Hub against the product market fit pyramid. So bullet number 0. So there's a tendency that GTM Hub leveraged the rising interest and usage of the objectives and key results framework. The biggest names like Google, Facebook, SAP are using OKRs, but no tool existed to manage them. Bullet number 1, target customer. So the target customers of GTM Hub are enterprise businesses, usually in the tech sector in the United States, applying the OKR framework. Underserved needs. Now, on top of the availability to enter objectives, key results, and initiatives, right, is the need for alignment. 97% of the company's customers admitted that alignment is a challenge for them. How what people are doing is aligned to the organization's goals. Transparency, breaking away from the working silos mentality, superior employee experience to fight the talent war, and to attract the millennials who want to have purpose at work nowadays. Now, by talking to customers, the co-founders identified these painful underserved needs and also decided their differentiators. That's how they formed their value proposition. Then they ensured those needs are actually addressed in the feature set. GTM Hub has developed more than 150 data connectors for automatic updates to cater to the alignment need. For example, connectors with Jira, with Slack, etc. And now their insight about the needs and the clear value proposition led to an innovative user experience. What's the result? Well, actually, they enjoyed superior growth. They've secured 1.2 million seed round, and recently they have closed to 9 million Series A round. For 2 years, GTM Hub has amassed 300 customers, including SAP, Atlassian, EPAM, Societe Generale, and the list goes on.
Wow, such an example. How have you applied the pyramid in practice? What we need to do to reach such a success like GTM Hub?
Well, I would say the lean product process. Now, it guides you through each layer of the pyramid from bottom up. The lean product process guides you on how to articulate and test these key hypotheses.
Okay.
Now, we regard everything as hypothesis as a guess at this point, because before we actually go out of the building and test it, everything is a hypothesis.
Okay.
So let's start at the bottom. What are our assumptions about the target customer? Next, what are the hypotheses about which of their needs are underserved? Third step, value proposition. Assumptions about which needs are you going to deliver on and how we are going to do that in a way that is better and different than the competition. Next, what should our feature set be so that we don't overbuild, using clickable prototypes, for example, and not writing any code yet? What's our UX going to be? And then there's one additional step, which is testing. The clickable prototype we built at the end of step 5 represents all our assumptions from 1 to 5. So now it's time to test. We close the loop and test so that we can evaluate whether we've reached product market fit. You need to iterate, maybe several times. You're not going to get it right the first time.
Right. Can we deep dive into the process?
Sure, let's do that. Starting with determine your target customer. Define it specifically. Don't be superficial. Peel off the layers of the onion. A tool that I recommend to use in order to avoid that superficial trap is actually the personas. Define your target customer personas. Let's look into an example. Let's say we are a car manufacturer. Initially, we've defined our target segment as people in the United States who want to buy a car. The common need is transportation within 100 miles of their home. Now, if we do customer discovery interviews with 20 moms and 20 macho guys, right, we are gonna unpeel some very, very different detailed needs. For example, the mom cares about carrying the kids around with all their stuff. She cares about safety. They're the most important thing in her life, maybe. She cares about the fuel economy. Now, the macho guys, he wants to go fast, attracts attention, look cool, right? So the ideal product for those two segments looks in a very, very, very different way. So once again, define the micro segment and avoid building a generalized product. Build a product optimized for your micro segment. Moving on, second step, which is identify underserved customer needs. That's our second step. Now, before delving in, we also want to solve a puzzle here. The puzzle world, which is needs. Big hint, needs.
Remember that word.
Solve that puzzle.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, moving on, whenever we talk about what the underserved needs of the target customer are, the framework I like to use is the problem space versus solution space. Now, problem space is like a well-written product requirement. It focuses only on the problem, on the need. In contrast, the solution space is a specific implementation. Far too many product teams just go into the solution space. It's easy, right? However, when people come up with great products, it's because they've stopped and spent enough time on the problem space and answering the hard questions. Who is it for? What's it gonna do for them? What specific problem does it address? And when NASA was sending astronauts to space, they knew something, that the pen we use won't work in space because it relies on gravity.
True.
So what they did, they invested in a multi-million R&D project to invent the space pen. Faced with the same challenge, Russia provided their astronauts with pencils. So there has been a solution in the problem. It's really easy, even when you are trying to focus only on the problem space, to have solution in your problem statement. Inventing a pen that can write in space was already a polluted problem statement.
Could you recommend us a way to avoid polluting the problem space with solution?
Sure, it's a common technique that I'm sure people also know a lot. It's the 5 why technique to fight the pollution. Why a pen in that very case? Now the needs, the problems are stable. They are much more stable than the ways to solve them. Think about the need to listen to music on the go. So still valid need, but we have had the Walkman, which maybe some of the people don't remember, the CD player, the MP3 player, the iPod, and now our phones. Now, after we brainstormed all the needs and cleared any pollution, we are good to go.
So after we identify the needs, we have to decide which needs we are going to address with our product, but how we can be sure that we are going to be better than our competitors.
Sure, it's time actually for our value proposition, right?
Okay.
That's our third step. Define your value proposition. Third step of this process. So, as you mentioned, value proposition, 2 main components in the value proposition. Which user benefits are you providing? And how are you doing that better than the competitors? Now, I would like to use and show you one tool. We think about the 3 categories borrowed from the Kano model. Must-haves, performance benefits, and delighters, and use those to categorize and get clear on our value proposition. For your product category, list what are the must-have benefits that apply to your product category, what are the performance benefits, and what are the delighters. Step 2 actually is to create column for our competitors, like that. And step 3 is to rate them, like that. Let's say we have 2 competitors. They both do the must-have, right? Now, competitor A is really strong in performance benefit 1, low on performance benefit 2, but competitor B is strong there. And they both do somehow on performance benefit 3, mediocre-ish. Competitor A also has his delighter benefit. That's his unique differentiator. Given this, we might want to go for a value proposition like this one. Of course, we are gonna have the must-have. We are gonna do somewhat on performance benefit 1, but we are not gonna try to beat these guys, right? Competitor A. We are gonna say no to performance benefit 2, and we are gonna be the best at performance benefit 3. And also we have our own delighter number 2.
Okay.
What's the most important thing in this exercise is to decide our unique differentiators. You see them circled now. You don't compete on the must-haves. And we want to decide our unique differentiators here before we go to the MVP step. Because if we build an MVP and it doesn't have this, then what actually are we trying to test with customers?
Right. Let's move and specify what is MVP.
Okay, good, thanks. Step number 4, specify your MVP feature set. Now, what is MVP? I'm not going to delve into that. You all know what minimum viable product is. I just want to focus on the common mistakes here. So the first common mistake is overscoping. The whole point is not to do it the old way. Before we invest resources, how we can keep away from overscoping and make sure we are going in the right direction. Another common mistake teams make is to make the MVP non-usable, non-reliable because it's an MVP. And that's an excuse to ignore reliability and usability. And that's frankly misusing the MVP. Yeah. How do you think you're gonna test with customers if it doesn't work or people cannot figure out how to use it? You want it to be reliable enough, usable enough, so that you can test your value proposition. You want it to have those 3 components shown on that pyramid. Now, moving forward, in the previous step, when we specified we were using words in a doc, in a user story, it was all words. Step number 5 is when we go from words to UX. And remember something, you cannot go and jump straight from words to coding. That's why this is a best practice on how you can break up the process by going from words to product in a way that you can iterate and test. Now, on the y-axis, you see the interactivity, how much I can tap, click compared to a live product. On the x-axis, you see the fidelity, how pixel perfect it is. Now, in the bottom left, lowest interaction, lowest fidelity are the hand sketches. I wouldn't show these to customers, but it's a great way for your team to move from words to that first picture and iterate until you're happy with it. The next design deliverable that I recommend is the clickable wireframes.
Clickable wireframes, let me guess, Balsamiq is a great tool for that, right?
Exactly, I love that tool. Nowadays, the tool, Balsamiq makes it really easy, both the wireframes and the interactions. It's good enough so that we can test with the customers, and I've done it multiple times, I can testify it works, but keep it low fidelity. No colors, guys. You want to test the information architecture, the navigation. Do not pollute the discussion with colors and such. Once your customers are relatively happy with the wireframes, you can proceed with the clickable mockups, which are higher fidelity.
And here we can use, let me guess, InVision.
Exactly, InVision. So the clickable mockups are great for eliciting customer feedback and much less expensive than actually building a live product. And finally, of course, you can proceed with your live product and, of course, test it as well.
Okay, let's move to the final step of the lean product process.
Product process.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to the final step. Let's move there, let's be there, and that's testing your MVP with customers. What's here? So now we've created the prototype. This prototype embodies all our assumptions. Now it's time to close the loop with actual target customers, not anybody on the street, right? Actual guys. Now, how do you test? You go meet the person in person, explain the high-level objective, and then let the customer play with the prototype. Observe them, what they click, where they experience difficulties. Do pay attention to questions such as, am I able to do this? And can I have such a feature? Ask why they want to do it. Ask why they want this feature. This will allow you to uncover more painful needs. Record the questions. You might have a second person with you who will record the observations. And after several iterations and revisions, your product market fit becomes more refined. You refine the components. And actually, you can see you've arrived at product market fit when your customers start asking, when is the first release going to come out? Can you let me know? Here's my business card. That's how you know you've reached product market fit.
Right.
So pretty interesting. Now, guys, at this point, we have validated our product market fit. And after several iterations, of course, of testing our hypothesis and course correcting. Now, what's next? How do we turn that scrappy MVP into a real enterprise production-ready product?
Thank you, Madi. So the next very crucial step is to build that product. There are many risks and many challenges that we can face when trying to build our product. And what can help us is to use a product development process. And one product development process can help us to minimize all the risks and to develop the product more quickly.
What is the recommended product development process that you used in your practice?
Agile, definitely Agile. According to the latest researches, more than 95% of all the tech companies around the world use Agile as of today. Agile has a lot of advantages, and one of them is the fact that we can break the product in smaller pieces, which means that we can shorten the cycle of requirement definition, design, and releases, which allow us to release the product to our customer earlier, which means that we can start gathering customer feedback sooner, which from other point of view help us and guide us to plan our subsequent product development effort accordingly.
Thank you. I mean, Kanban and Scrum are actually the most widespread and popular Agile methodologies. Mm-hmm. But out of your practice, what are the most important aspects which you always follow and that have helped you deliver successful products?
Well, if I have to list just a couple of ingredients of a recipe called succeeding with Agile, if you allow me to call it like that, the first thing that I'm going to mention, of course, is cross-functional cooperation of the team. Everything depends on that, and we should be free and frequent in our communication with the whole team members, including product managers, including designers, including developers, QAs, and all of the rest of the team. We can use some communication tools such as chat, developer tracking tools such as Jira, or knowledge collaboration tools such as Confluence or Google Docs. The goal is the whole team to work effectively together. And let's be honest, product development is a team sport. And as all team players, we need to share the same goal, we need to share the same vision. This will allow us to move faster.
I like that comparison, team sport. What else?
What else? Quality assurance, including automation testing, continuous integration, and continuous deployment. And last but not least, this is the product backlog prioritization. We must be very clear on our priorities at any point of time, but at the same time, we need to be able to quickly incorporate new or changing requirements. There was a very interesting presentation with the topic, The Secret of Great Product Roadmap, done by our colleague at the first day of our event. Mm-hmm. If you missed it, I encourage you to search for the video, watch it. I'm sure you're going to find a lot of helpful insights there.
Thanks.
Yeah, for the sake of our discussion, I'm going to mention just a couple of techniques that we can use to prioritize our backlog, like Moscow, like story mapping, like Slack ranking, but my favorite one is Kanu. Mm-hmm. This is the same Kanu technique that you use when you define the value proposition. We can use it during the product development process as well. The market is really dynamic, and any delight or feature can very quickly become performance or even basic one. Mm-hmm. So this means that we can lose our competitive advantage very quickly. With that said, I think we're ready to go to our next topic plan for today, and this is how to optimize our product.
So let's dive deep into that topic. Speed is a weapon in today's fast-paced world. What is that about?
Okay, let me explain that. So when I launch a new feature, I'm really eager to understand how this feature is performing or how my product is performing. In today's reality, the size of your current business is not so important. It's less relevant. What is important is how quickly you can learn from your customers and iterate. That's why the speed is a key here. And how we can guarantee that we're moving fast enough? We can do that by defining and implementing a good analytics framework. This gives us a freedom to optimize our product. This gives us the possibility to be competitive to the dynamic market and to have advantage over our competitors. Here you can see just a sample of some analytics framework that currently exist on the market, like Google Analytics, Kissmetrics, Fori, and some others. Our focus today is not to talk about specific framework. We can, depending on our needs, we can select which one we would like to implement or which combination of them we would like to implement during our product development process. What is much more important is to understand what is lean product analytics process. And once you understand it and implement it as soon as possible into the whole process, this will give us the key, and this is the key to optimize our product.
I agree, and it's crucial to define the metrics that are important for your business and to continuously monitor them, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. So let's look at the process. The process has a couple of steps, and the first step is to define our key metrics. The next step is to measure the baseline values for each of those metrics. The third step is to evaluate the potential return of investment for each metric. Those three steps, these are not one-time event. You can add more metrics at any point of time. You can measure the baseline values for them and evaluate them as many times as you want. Going further, step number 5 is to select the top metric to be improved. Depending on which stage in the product development cycle you are, you're going to focus on specific metric. Once you select that top metric, what you have to do, you can brainstorm for ideas how these metrics can be improved. You can organize a meeting with the whole team and do some brainstorming session. Once you have a list of all those ideas, you can identify which is the idea that has a highest return of investment value. Then design, implement, and analyze how the metric is changed. But imagine that you're not happy with the changes. So what we can do another iteration of brainstorming, find the idea, design, implement it, and measure again. At some point of time, you're gonna decide that this is fine, this is okay. You reach some numbers that are okay for you, and what we have to do is to start over. To start over with the moment when you evaluate the potential return of investment metric, and do the whole iteration again.
Sounds fair.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next thing that I would like to share with you is this term that is called local maximum. When you're doing this optimization of your metrics, you can reach some point when you think that this metric cannot be improved further. What you can do there? What we shall do? In any case, I would say you should not stop trying to improve it. You can temporarily pause and select another metric, but later on you can return it back to this one. And just as an example, I can share with you that Google did A/B testing of 41 different shades of blue, just to select the blue that they use today. And once they reach the rate that they really like, they did the same for the other colors. So keep going, keep trying to evaluate, to optimize all your metrics. And let's be honest, the analytics process is an ongoing process. You should never stop during your product is live. And the analytics process goes hand in hand with our metric model.
Okay, so this is the startup metrics model developed by this crazy 500 startups angel investor Dave McClure. And now it also has a couple of other names, right?
Yes, absolutely, you're right. The other names are metrics for pirates and 5-step framework for growth. So this model doesn't require any technical knowledge, but at the same time, it gives you the possibility to understand the customer behavior patterns and to optimize the user experience of the customers. As I mentioned, it is 5 steps, so let's look at those 5 steps. First step, first A, stands for acquisition. Find out where your audience hands-on, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, forums, blogs. Don't be shy to try different channels to see which channel works best for you. And try to answer the 3 questions. What channel has highest volume? What channel performs best? And what channel requires lowest investment? Second A stands for activation. Activation is about the first experience of your customer. It is not enough to get people to download your application or even to sign in. You should make your customer to reach the aha moment. This is the moment when the customer realizes the value of your product for the first time. And the time between when the customer signs in and says the word, I love this product, this is the whole process of activation. All the customers are really demanding, even I'm demanding when we're talking about new products, so you try to minimize the number of steps that the customer has to take. Improve the performance of your product and application, reduce visual friction, remove unnecessary form fields, and etc. So, going further, retention, 4-star. Congratulations, we have customers, somebody buy our product, and now we have to make sure that those customers will continue using our product. This is a very important step, and we are going to talk more about it a little bit later. Going further, second R stands for retention. If you get people to talk about your product and better refer their friends, it's a great success.
Referral. We want referrals, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we want referrals. 2 main metrics here: Net Promoter Score and viral coefficient. And the last R stands for revenue. Congratulations. Here we are, final step. People love the product, they use it, they pay for it. However, this is not the end of the game. You need to continue taking care about your customers, offer some discounts, create attractive plans, offer them high quality support, do whatever is needed to increase the revenue. How you can do that? You can do it by increasing the customer lifecycle value or decreasing customer acquisition cost. So this was in a nutshell about our metric model. But going back to the product market fit and the new product, Maggie, you're an expert. Which metric do you use to measure the product market fit?
Well, I would say after I've acquired some people and they're active, I do really care only about the retention rate. That's the clear signal, retention rate.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When we're talking about new product, it's essential first to optimize the retention, and then, which is part of the retention step, this is the 3rd step from the R model. And after that, to focus on the others. It's obvious it doesn't make sense to spend resources optimizing and acquiring customers in case you're not sure if the customers really likes your product. So how we can increase the customer retentions? We can use many techniques to do that. Most of them are related to different notification methods that you can use. And when we're talking about retention rate as a main metric, there, retention curve is the intuitive way to visualize it. What we can see here is just a sample of a retention curve. On the vertical axis, we can see the percentage of users returning. On horizontal axis is the number of days since first use. Retention curve always starts from 100% on day 0 and then tend to decrease over the time as more and more customers fail to return to use the product. Day 0 is usually not shown for a more readable graph, but you can find a way in some places that day 0 is also visible. So what we can see on that graphic, we can see that on the first day we have 20% retention rate. We start from 100, day 1, 20. and this is the first characteristic of the retention curve. This is the initial drop-off rate. Depending on the product category, we can have different drop-off rates. This is a sample for mobile applications, so somehow 8% is expected. Why is that? Because you can imagine you're using your mobile, you download some application, you use it for once, you close it, and then you totally forget about it. But how we can minimize that number, that rate? We can use notifications for that, just to remind the customers that this application exists on their mobile. So what else we can see on the graphic? We can see the fact that the retention curve descent, and the rate of descent is the second characteristic. And this is how the value decreased from the initial value. Some retention curves drop very quickly. Some of them descend more slowly over time. So if the curve goes below 0 or starts reaching the 0, red flag, you have a problem with the product market fit. You need to take immediate actions because you're going to lose all your customers. Yeah. But if the curves become like a horizontal line at a certain point of time, as you can see here in the graph, it is around 3.5. This means that we reach the terminal value. This is the value or the percentage of customers that retain, which means that these are the customers that will continue using your application or your product. So if we have two products, one of them has a terminal value of 5, another one has a terminal value of 20. The ones with the terminal value of 20 has a higher product market fit. Cool. I can give you another example. Maggie, you spoke about GTM Hub. They implemented more than 150 connectors to make sure that all the goals have been updated regularly. But even though they implemented a notification functionality, so they can remind their customer to continue using the application.
Come back.
Yeah. So if we want to optimize our product, we need to make sure that we are improving our product market fit. And our retention moving up, reaching high terminal value. How we can see that? We can see that via another technique that is called cohort analysis. I prepare like an example by book. We have 3 different cohorts. Cohort A represents user sign up when we launched our MVP 24 months ago. Cohort B represents the users that sign up our application 8 months ago, and cohort C represents the user that signed up 12 months ago. As we can see, we've improved our product market fit over time with our retention curve is moving up. Each subsequent cohort has a lower initial drop-off, lower decay rate, and higher terminal value than the previous one. So the terminal value of cohort C is less than 10, and of cohort A, sorry, and the terminal value of cohort C is like 30%, which means that we increase our product market fit significantly over the time.
I like that example by the book. Now, if I understand correctly, when we are talking about new products, it's essential to focus on retention first and not to start from the acquisition step in the model.
You're absolutely right. So once you confirm that you have a strong product market fit with a healthy retention rate, it usually makes sense to focus on the acquisition and to optimize the activation, which means that you need to increase the percentage of users who have happy first experience. Just a couple of samples. Facebook realized that the aha momentum for users occurred when they acquire at least seven friends in first 10 days. That's why they implement the functionality to synchronize your email address, email account with Facebook and propose you and suggest you friends. Another example is Dropbox. They realize that the users that upload at least one file is more likely to use Dropbox again. And that's why they encourage the users to attach at least one file during the sign-up process.
Nice. So first, retention. Second, we have the activation. What's the third one?
Third one is the acquisition. You have a solid retention activation. The customers believe in your product, they use it. So it's time to find a better way to attract customers. Try to find your channels that best serves for you and acquire them. Acquisition is divided basically into different types, paid and free. Paid acquisition as a sample, so we can use Google or Facebook. Free acquisitions, we can use viral marketing or organic search. So we talk a lot about metrics. Metrics, without doubt, is a valuable tool for business development. But let's not forget that metrics are just the reflection of the strategy that we've applied. They can tell you what's happening here and now. The data that you can get cannot tell you how your product should look like or how your product should behave. The only thing that they can tell you is whether a specific feature meet expected or solve respective problem or meet customer expectations. And the key for optimizing your product is to use analytics process.
Thank you. So to wrap it up, guys, for everyone, let's start with the pyramid. So determine your target customer, be specific about it, right? Specific. Second point, identify underserved customer needs. Focus on identifying the problems, don't pollute with possible solutions. Use the importance and satisfaction to understand which of the underserved needs it's worth to go after. Third step, define your value proposition. How are you going to be better, different than the competition? What's your secret sauce? What are your unique differentiators? Now, specify your MVP feature set. It's important not to overbuild before you've had the chance to course correct. The thinnest end-to-end flow. That's what we want in the MVP. Next, create your MVP prototype together with the UX designer though, right? Clickable, tappable prototype without coding, and you'll be able to move faster. Test your MVP prototype with customers. Get out of the building and talk to actual customers. And be ready to go through the iterate, hypothesize, design, test, learn loop with the goal of improving the product market fit. Once you are there, as we said, leverage agile, leverage continuous delivery, right? Leverage continuous integration. And then measure your product, You're still not there. You still have to measure and monitor. Now, after you've acquired those initial guys and activated them, focus on retention, right? First, retention. And you're going to get some pressure from stakeholders, from investors, to show them the money, to show them the revenue or the big explosions of customers. Anyway, your priority is retention. Always validate.
Absolutely, always validate.
Okay, so thanks everyone. Let's open it up for the Q&A we have.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Magdalena, for such an invigorating talk. There's actually been a lot of questions and our listeners are very active. So let's start from the most top voted questions, I think. So the question from Alexander Yaptsev is as follows. You have started determination of market fit starting from the target audience or personas. Usually this starting point is criticized by jobs to be done approach, where we should focus on the job story and why the product is being hired by users. Could you please comment on that? Which approach you prefer, any pros and cons?
Okay, sure. So the reason why you start with your target customer is because they are the fundament, right? From that definition of your target customer, everything else depends on that. So I wouldn't say you can interchange that step with anything. You need to do your research, you need to be as specific as possible, peel off the layers of that onion, and start with the target customer. Focus on that as a first step in the lean product management process.
Okay, thank you. The next question is actually, we have two from Olga Margelova. And the first one from Olga is how to determine appropriate set of KPIs for your product. You kind of answered these, but maybe just a short version.
So maybe I can answer here. KPIs, your product, metrics, they may vary. It really depends on what is your product, what is your business model. You have the full freedom to define as many metrics as you want. What I usually use when I start defining some metrics is not to focus into the metric itself, but to focus into the questions that I would like to answer with my analysis.
Thank you, Tanya. Thanks. Another question again from Olga is, what techniques do you use for competitors analysis on step 4, defining value proposition?
Well, we showed one, right? This matrix where you map the must-haves and the performance benefits and the delighters, and you make that for the competitors and yourself. So that's kind of a comparative analysis. Well, there are many other tools just for analyzing your competitors, right? We have the strength weaknesses model, the SWOT model. There are many tools out there, part of the management consulting toolkit. But I would say what we draw on that slide is something handy you can use whenever you're talking about new products, new features, or extending an existing product, because it's hands-on and directly applicable to the job you need to do.
Thank you, Magdalena. Next question is from Arpine. She's asking how to gain enough maturity to start to use lean methodology.
Well, that's an interesting one. So you can be as mature as you want, right? Yeah. You don't need maturity to start using the lean methodology. What you need is an appreciation for speed and for making sure that what you are working on makes sense and there's somebody on the other end who's willing to buy it. That's the whole goal of lean, right? To validate and not to spend our efforts in vain. So you don't need maturity. You can start as early as you want. No maturity for that.
Can't agree. Yeah. Go on.
I think that's it. I mean,
yeah, I just wanted to say can't agree with you more. Yeah. The next question is from Vitaly, and he's asking, what are the specifics of applying the described approach for a B2B market, where end users do not always decide whether to use a product? So some metrics become not relevant. For example, they have to use this product even though they don't like it. And which metrics are getting more important in this case?
That's a great question. Thanks a lot for it. So there are specifics in the entire lean product management process when we are talking about B2B scenario. And let's assume, I mean, I guess his question is also more towards B2B in big companies, right? B2B, it sounded like that. So firstly, so when you are going through all the whoops to reach product market fit, you can do it, all right? It's applicable. You might face more difficult time to get access to users and to go to interview them, to test with them. But still, you have to find out what are the channels, either through the account manager, through a given stakeholders. You can still do that. So that's one. It's a bit more challenging to get hold of people, but you can do that. And then when you can still use the prototypes, you still don't need a live product. You can use the wireframes or the clickable prototypes. Everything else is applicable in that sphere. Now, regarding the metrics. Of course,
it depends. B2B is a different sphere, but you can still define some metrics. Most probably, still retention is important, I would say, definitely. In my previous employer, we wanted to launch a new channel for the call center representatives, and first time when we did it, the first MVP, I can say that it was epic fail, because we lost that advantage and we didn't focus on the retention at all. Users, the call center representative just log into the channel, do some stuff, close it, and their feedback was, no, we don't like it. We did usability testing with some focus group. So I would say that retention is also important, even for B2B. And activation, of course, you need to have a great user experience. Let's be honest.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Also, another example I would like to give here. So we were working with this customer like 2 years ago. We were building a mobile application that was used by some employees in warehouses. And they had to check what's the current level of the stock by counting and entering the values in the app. Anyway, pretty simple app, right? So it came to us after it has been developed, and it was horrible. I mean, it was not usable, constantly buggy, failing, etc. Now, those guys in the warehouses, trust me, they weren't some kind of a high-profile users, and they were forced to use that application. But that didn't help. I mean, the guys just couldn't work with that crap. And I mean, they just escalated to their supervisors, etc., etc. And that's how renovating kits, stabilizing kits, improving kits came to us. Once again, to Tanya's point, it's worth it to also measure retention in big B2B scenarios as well.
Thank you for such a full answer for this question. Unfortunately, we have to leave a few questions unanswered for now, and this brings us to the end of the Q&A session. But those who actually asked questions and didn't get an answer, just I'm going to post the link to the discussion group here. So feel free to go to this discussion group. All the questions will be posted there, and our speakers, Tanya and Magdalena, will answer these questions for sure. And again, thank you, Magdalena and Tanya, for this crash course into lean product management. And for our listeners, thank you very much for being with us for this hour, and we're looking forward to seeing you again on our sessions.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you, colleagues. Thanks everyone who has joined. Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure.
Have a nice day or evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.